What happens when the world's most empathetic personality type, the INFJ, gets pushed past their breaking point? Imagine a healer who's stopped healing, a listener who's gone silent, a dreamer who's lost faith in dreams. You've seen them calm, wise, endlessly patient, until one day they're not. Their warmth turns to ice. Their compassion hardens into steel. And they vanish into a fortress no one can penetrate. What's really going on inside? Today, we're ripping off the mask to expose the uncensored truth about INFJs in extreme survival mode, where their deepest fears collide with their fiercest strengths. This isn't a personality quirk. This is a raw, unfiltered reality check. Ready to see what happens when the advocate becomes the warrior? 1. The INFJ's default mode, empathy in overdrive. INFJs are natural-born empaths. They're the people who can walk into a room and instantly sense the mood, even if everyone's pretending to be fine. Their brains are wired to pick up on tiny details: a friend's forced smile, a coworker's tired sigh, or a stranger's slumped shoulders. They don't just notice these things, they feel them deeply, like a sponge soaking up emotions. This makes them incredible friends, partners, and counselors because they genuinely care about helping others. But here's the problem: their kindness isn't a bottomless well. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with everyone else's problems. Over time, the weight becomes unbearable. INFJs often ignore their own needs to fix things for others, thinking, if I don't help, who will? But this selflessness comes at a cost. Their energy drains faster than they realize, and when it's gone, their survival instincts kick in hard. 2. The tipping point. What triggers survival mode? Survival mode doesn't happen overnight for INFJs. It's like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice it until you're stranded on the side of the road. Small stresses pile up: a demanding job, family drama, financial worries, or constantly being the therapist friend. Then comes the final straw: a betrayal, a major loss, or a shattered dream. For example, an INFJ might spend years supporting a partner through hard times, only to be cheated on. Or they might work tirelessly on a project that gets canceled without warning. These moments break their trust in people or systems they believed in. Suddenly, their idealistic worldview cracks, and they're left thinking, why did I even try? This emotional earthquake forces their brain into survival mode, a primal state where logic and feelings collide. 3. The great withdrawal. Silence speaks louder. When INFJs hit survival mode, their first move is to disappear. They stop answering calls, skip social events, and become ghosts online. It's not that they don't care anymore, they're just too exhausted to pretend they're okay. Picture a phone battery at 1%. They need to shut off all apps to recharge. Socializing feels like running a marathon in quicksand. Small talk? Torture. They'd rather hide under a blanket, binge-watch comfort shows, or lose themselves in a book. Friends might take it personally, wondering, did I do something wrong? But the truth is, INFJs aren't rejecting others. They're protecting themselves. Their minds are screaming, too much noise. I need silence. So they retreat, hoping the world will leave them alone long enough to heal. 4. Hyperfocus. The laser-sharp tunnel vision. In survival mode, INFJs don't just zone out, they hyperfocus. Their intuition, usually a gentle guide, turns into a relentless detective. They analyze every conversation, facial expression, and text message for hidden threats. For example, if their boss says, "We need to talk tomorrow," their brain spirals. Am I getting fired? Did I mess up? What's the worst-case scenario? They'll replay old mistakes, obsess over future problems, and imagine disasters that haven't happened, all to feel prepared. This mental overdrive is exhausting, but it gives them a false sense of control. They think, if I predict the pain, maybe I can avoid it. But in reality, they're stuck in a loop of anxiety, chasing answers that don't exist. 5. Emotional shutdown. The iceberg effect. Normally, INFJs feel emotions intensely. Joy is euphoric, sadness is crushing, and love is all-consuming. But in survival mode, their hearts freeze over. They describe it as watching life through a foggy window. A grieving INFJ might plan a loved one's funeral with robotic efficiency, feeling nothing. Another might end a long-term relationship without shedding a tear. It's not that they're heartless, they're in self-preservation mode. Emotions become too dangerous to feel, like touching a live wire. So they numb themselves, thinking, if I don't feel it, it can't hurt me. But this icy detachment backfires. Unexpressed grief, anger, or fear eventually erupts, often as physical illness or sudden breakdowns. 6. The body keeps score. Physical collapse. INFJs often ignore their bodies until it's too late. Survival mode doesn't just mess with their minds, it attacks their health. Chronic stress floods their system with cortisol, leading to migraines, stomach issues, or insomnia. They might swing between adrenaline-fueled energy crashes, cleaning the house at 3 a.m., then sleeping all day. One INFJ described it as, my body going on strike. They'll cancel plans last minute, blaming a cold, but it's really their nervous system begging for rest. Ignoring these signs can lead to long-term issues like autoimmune disorders or burnout. Their bodies are literally screaming, slow down or I'll make you. 7. The lone wolf mentality, I'll do it myself. Trust is hard for INFJs in survival mode. They've been let down too many times, so they push people away. Friends offer help, but they insist, I've got this, even when they're drowning. For example, an INFJ might refuse therapy after a breakup, thinking, talking won't fix anything. Or they'll work 80-hour weeks instead of delegating tasks. It's not pride, it's fear. Letting others in feels risky when they're barely holding it together. They think, if I rely on someone and they leave, I'll break. So they become lone wolves, battling storms alone, convinced isolation is safer than vulnerability. 8. Decision fatigue, from overthinker to impulsive rebel. INFJs usually overthink every choice, from what to eat for lunch to career moves. But survival mode flips a switch. Suddenly, they act on impulse, making drastic decisions to escape pain. Imagine quitting a stable job overnight, moving cities without a plan, or cutting off a friend over a minor argument. One INFJ sold her car to backpack across Europe after a divorce, saying, I just needed to run. These choices aren't reckless, they're desperate attempts to regain control. Logic takes a backseat to survival instincts. Later, they'll agonize over whether they did the right thing, but in the moment, action numbs the chaos. 9. The perfectionism trap. If I can't do it perfectly, why try? Survival mode magnifies an INFJ's inner critic. Projects collect dust, hobbies are abandoned, and goals feel impossible. They're terrified of failing their own high standards. For example, an INFJ writer might delete a novel draft, thinking it's not meaningful enough. A student avoids studying, paralyzed by thoughts like, if I don't get an A+, I'm worthless. This isn't laziness, it's fear of imperfection. They'd rather do nothing than risk mediocrity. But this trap keeps them stuck, watching life pass by while they wait for the perfect moment to begin. 10. The secret rage. When the pacifist gets angry, INFJs hate conflict. They're peacemakers who avoid arguments at all costs. But survival mode? It turns their suppressed anger into a volcano. Little things set them off. A noisy neighbor, a misplaced keys, or a delayed text. They might snap at loved ones, then instantly regret it. One INFJ confessed, I screamed at my dog for barking, then sobbed for hours. I hated myself for losing control. This rage isn't really about the noise or the keys, it's a cry for help. They're angry at the world for overwhelming them and at themselves for failing to handle it. 11. The recovery phase, crawling back to light. Survival mode isn't permanent. Slowly, INFJs start to thaw. They might journal, meditate, or take long nature walks, anything to reconnect with their true selves. Recovery is messy. Some days, they'll make progress. Other days, they'll relapse into isolation. Key steps include setting boundaries, I can't help you right now, embracing imperfection, good enough is okay, and the hardest one, asking for help. An INFJ might text a friend, I'm struggling. Can we talk? It feels terrifying, but it's the first step toward healing. As one INFJ said, "I realized I'm human, not a superhero. It's okay to need rest." 12. How to support an INFJ in survival mode. If you love an INFJ, don't push them to snap out of it. Respect their need for space, but don't vanish. Send a low-pressure text. No need to reply, but I'm here if you want tacos or silence. Offer practical help. Cook a meal, walk their dog, or handle a chore they're neglecting. Avoid phrases like "you're overreacting" or "just think positive." Instead say, "This sounds really hard. I'm with you." Most importantly, be patient. They'll open up when they're ready, and when they do, listen without judgment. Conclusion: INFJs in survival mode aren't broken, they're human. Their withdrawal, anger, and perfectionism are survival tools, not flaws. But they can't pour from an empty cup forever. To every INFJ watching, you're allowed to rest. You're allowed to say, "No, you don't have to save the world alone." And to those who love an INFJ, your patience is their lifeline. Remind them they're not a burden, they're a gift. Together, we can create a world where advocates don't just survive, they thrive.